Hi, I'm Jared Johnson, Technology Evangelist for CData Software. In this video, we're going to walk through the CData Drivers for DataRobot, which offer a no-code DataRobot integration with popular BI, ETL reporting, and analytics tools. The website for our drivers is cdata.com/drivers/DataRobot. So how do the CData drivers work? So they connect to the DataRobot API to retrieve the projects and models for a DataRobot prediction instance, and then we use the prediction server API to actually retrieve those predictions. And the way that we do that is by uploading a designated CSV file using the prediction server API, and then requesting predictions based on a model for that input data, and returning that data as a table. And when I say that data, I mean the original CSV data with the prediction data appended to the end of the table. So you can see all of the different fields and values that are possibly causing or at least correlating with various prediction predictions. So the way that this works is we will expose all deployed models as tables. So when users log into their DataRobot instance, which I'm going to do now, so just logging into my little sample instance here, so we can see there's my data. So these are my models, and we'll see these exposed later. But if I go in, I only have one actively deployed model. So what I'm going to do now is go into Visual Studio, which has a Server Explorer window, which basically lets me look at DataRobot using the ADO.NET provider as if it were a SQL Server database. So, putting in the required connection properties in order to connect. So my DataRobot username, my password. We'll also need the DataRobot key and the prediction instance and the file to be uploaded. So when I drill down, I can see that model, but I can also click in if I'm not sure what my model is or which model to use. I can look at the recommended models that are exposed by the DataRobot API. I can view all of the models that I have available to me for my predictions instance. So we'll scroll over and we should see the model types. So these were all of the model types that were exposed in the models that I have available to me. So we can see those, access those, find the ID if we want. One of the cool things is that if you know the model ID and the project ID, you can actually get predictions from an undeployed model using the predictions API. So what I'll look at now, this is an input CSV, so you can see the different fields in my CSV. So race, age, gender, different medications, whether they were administered or not. This is based on the diabetes data set, sample data set. So I'm going to retrieve data. So what I'm going to do is it's actually the driver is uploading the CSV document to DataRobot and pulling in the predictions based on that data. So 10,000 rows in my document, you can see 10,000 rows showed up in the result set. We can see that same original data, so gender, age, and weight. So just scrolling over in the original document show, okay, there's the end of the data, there's nothing else. So when I go back to my readmitted predictions table, you can see all of the original data from the input CSV. And when I get to the end, what we'll see is all of the prediction information. So predictions, the actual prediction itself, the prediction threshold, and then different prediction values, prediction value labels, as returned by the prediction server API. So with this data now exposed, you can perform analytics, you can do charting, you can do reporting, see all of the information that you would expect to be able to see natively within DataRobot, but now you're getting it seamlessly with no code into the predictions, analytics, BI reporting tools that you already use. So just again, another example of the input CSV. So what information, what do we need? So you need to, your customers are going to need to know their DataRobot username and password. They need to know the location of the data file and the DataRobot key and their prediction instance. The DataRobot key obviously is only needed if the instance type requires it. So current limitations of the driver, since we're using the predictions server API, maximum upload size of 50 megabytes. And then currently the driver only supports getting predictions on CSV data. We're going to look into expanding that functionality in the next version of the drivers, so you could possibly upload data from a database or other data formats. So what are some popular use cases? So things that people might want to do with DataRobot predictions. Specific tools that they might be interested in. So the ODBC or ADO.NET providers offer connectivity within TIBCO Spotfire, which is a BI reporting and analytics tool by TIBCO. The JDBC driver, as I mentioned before, is cross-platform. So if you just want to visualize or see the data, you could do that in the different database tools available in Java IDEs like NetBeans or Eclipse. If you want to do BI or reporting or analytics, then Pentaho BI, Jasper Reports, and BERT are good options. I mentioned the SSIS components before. Azure Data Factory is a cloud-hosted version of SSIS workflows, and our SSIS components are compatible with the Azure Data Factory. So you can author the workflow on a desktop machine and then push it to the server to be hosted in the cloud, so you get all of the scalability and all of the things that you would expect from cloud instances. And then you can include DataRobot predictions in your ETL workflows in Alteryx and Informatica Power Center using the ODBC drivers. So, and then what I'll show next is just a couple of instances of actually working with the DataRobot predictions data in different tools. So first we'll start with Excel. So I'll click the CData ribbon and then click from DataRobot. And then I can edit my connection. So as you can see, the required properties, they're all there. Test the connection. So this is just confirming authentication. There's the models view, but I want my readmitted predictions. And so again, no code. So I'm here just clicking on the different fields that I want to be able to see. So gender, and let's look at the insulin administration. And then I actually want to filter by those that were administered insulin, and it was flagged as steady. And I want the first 2,000 instances where a patient was given steady insulin and get the predictions for that. So as you can see, we're importing data, grabbing data as it comes in. So now we have the gender of every patient that was given steady insulin and the prediction based on that. So what I'm going to do now is just insert a chart based on that. So this is actually going to end up being a pivot chart, so we're pivoting the gender and the predictions into the columns, and instead of the sum, which doesn't seem to make as much sense, we're going to hit an average. I'm not a AI predictions expert, but this seems to be the thing that makes the most sense. So for those patients that were given steady insulin, 25% of them are predicted to be readmitted. So the next thing we'll do is we'll look at building charts in TIBCO Spotfire. So again, we're looking at the same, building the connectivity. Again, I'm not writing any code to connect. So just putting in my credentials to be able to connect. And then once we connect, one of the cool things about TIBCO Spotfire is that it will look at the schema of the data that is presented and offer some recommended charts based on that information. So we'll select the data that we want to look at. Again, point and click interface. Simply select the data that you want. In this case, I want some flexibility, so I'm actually going to try to work with everything that's available, and then we'll go from there to drill down and figure out what the best options for charting my predictions is. So, yep, DataRobot readmitted predictions. Let's import that. So it's pulling the data in, 10,000 rows, looking at the types of each column that's returned. So we're going to start from data, and then I want the prediction for sure, and then we'll look at the gender again, and then this time, instead of anything else, let's look at the discharge disposition ID. So we're going to look at what is DataRobot predicting as far as somebody being readmitted based on gender and how they were discharged. So I don't really see anything that I really want to use, so what we'll look at is we'll just look at this tree map, and then I'll need to go in and modify the aggregation so that we're looking at the average. So this is, so the prediction is a 1 or a 0, so we're looking at the average, basically what percentage of entries were predicted to be readmitted based on gender and discharge disposition. So that was a couple of live instances of working with the data. Another use case is publishing prediction reports. So different on-premise and tools have cloud-based or server-based instances. So you can author a report or perform some analytics on a desktop machine within your environment and then publish that report to either to a server or to the cloud. And our drivers are fully compatible with those features. So if you're publishing, to a server, that's typically a little easier. If you want to publish to the web, typically the connection is hosted on a local machine, and tools will have proprietary data gateways that allow them to communicate with on-premise connectors from their online tools. And our connectors are supported across the wide variety of those data gateways that allow you to publish to things like PowerBI.com or Tableau Online. So that's it. If you have any questions, just reach out to us. Support@cdata.com for technical questions. If you have licensing or pricing questions, sales@cdata.com is going to be the way to go. Thanks.